I'd like to call to order the Plan and Zone meeting, public hearing for today, March 5th. It appears as though we have a fairly sparse crowd tonight. We'll start off with roll call for the, well, I guess we don't have public hearing. I'm
No.
sorry, regular meeting tonight. Start off with roll call.
Connell,
Present.
Hepner,
Here.
Ingram,
Present.
Johnson,
Here.
Lammers,
Present.
Manus,
Here.
Med,
Here.
Quinn and Reinhardt's are excused. Tallman here, Schneider.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. First item of business is report of city council activity.
I do have something to report. If you recall, at the last meeting, you voted I'll say in the negative on that right-of-way vacation on Crestview Drive. Well, after the applicant's attorney did a little bit more digging and working with our city clerk, never mind that right-of-way was vacated in 1960.
Okay. 1960, huh?
It was a good year.
I guess. Anything else?
Nothing else.
Thank you. Move on to the secretary's report.
Second.
All in favor of the secretary's report as written, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? It will stay as written. Report of comp plan committee, Matt?
Well, we'll just use this time kind of as a update on where we're at with the zoning ordinance. As you know, when we adopted, the city adopted this in it became effective January 20th. We knew we would have some cleanup to do, some refinements. We're not going to call fixing errors. We're going to call them refinements. And there's actually been a couple things that have come up that it may be a little time sensitive. So we're going to suggest no action you need to take at this point, but we think we're going to do a 3-month review, a 6-month, and a 12-month. A few of the things that we think probably need to be addressed fairly quickly. We've had a couple hotels proposed, one on Elmore and one on off of Utica Ridge. Go figure, that's surprising. But having issues perhaps with both parking and maximum height. We have a 45-foot height limitation, and both of these are coming in a little bit more than that. We think we can probably work with people through the Zoning Board of Adjustment process. That's something that staff doesn't like to jump into, but as a short-term solution, that might be a possibility. One of the things we were particularly careful with, we talked about reviewing all 43,000 parcels, and it's like we couldn't possibly get all these right. Well, there's at least one that we need to fix. We discovered when we were kind of doing our due diligence with the 5,000 Grand rezoning that credit union there on 46th Street, the Marine Credit Union, we actually zone multifamily. So financial institutions are not permitted there. So as we speak, that is a legal non-conforming use. We've been in contact with their corporate people. They're not happy. They just simply would like it fixed as soon as possible, even though they have every intention to continue business as usual there, which wouldn't affect them. A few other things. I think we mentioned talking about commercial horse stables. We don't call that out anywhere else in the ordinance. Altogether, right now, we have on our to-do list, we have 21 items, but I would say probably 2/3 at least are probably things that we can, that are not time critical. But I did want to let you know that we are suggesting that we move forward with a public hearing probably on April 2nd to deal with not only the text amendments, but also the fix and zoning on 46th Street. That being said, we have time to talk about it, but in order to expedite the process, we might be looking at one of those, have the hearing, and vote on the same meeting. But we'll have more information for you at the next commission meeting on the 19th.
Thank you, Matt.
Any
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Matt. We'll move on to zoning activity, where I see no activity for us tonight. That brings us to subdivision. We have one new business item. Commissioner Schneider.
Okay, it's case F19-02, request of Leslie Miller for a final plat of a two-lot subdivision located northwest of the intersection of Rockingham Road and South Howell Street. That's Ward 3.
Good evening, Brandon with Community Planning.
Wait.
Pardon
We
me.
need a motion.
Okay, staff recommends the City Plan and Zoning Commission accept the listed findings and forward case F19-0202 to the City Council and with a recommendation for approval, subject to the listed conditions, and I so move.
Case number F19-02 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Brandon?
Thanks for the motion. Brandon Melton, Community Planning. Fairly straightforward subdivision. It's currently 3 parcels. It's going to be redrawing some lines within that area. The current zoning right now is C1 neighborhood commercial and C2 corridor commercial. You'll kind of notice that that may be the only point that is a little bit tricky, is that the line that's going to be drawn is right through here. It's going to be it's going to create some split zoning in that parcel, which isn't ideal. But for the purposes of subdividing, it's not a criteria that we use to determine whether it can be subdivided or not. But we will encourage the property owner to rezone that, highly encourage that. It's also, from the land use plan, it's residential general, which can include other uses other than residential. So here's the plat. You can kind of see where it's taking that that parcel there, removing the lines from the parcel to the west, or the westmost parcel, and then also this, and then drawing the line directly through. So really, these were our findings and recommendations. Are there any questions related to the subdivision?
Commissioner Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question for you. I know typically we like to see the applicant show up at these meetings. This is a pretty straightforward and small petition. Is there a reason they are not here this evening?
They did ask if they needed a representative here. We said that they could come if they wanted to, but being a simple subdivision, they didn't necessarily have to be here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lammers.
Your recommendation for rezoning, do they have to take that?
They don't, no. We do allow split zoning. There's nothing in the zoning ordinance that disallows it, or in the subdivision ordinance. So we'll just strongly recommend that they do rezone. Where it could come into play is if the property is potentially developed further than it is, and if the two zoning districts have different setback requirements, that could come into play in how they can develop the site. As of right now, the buildings that exist on the site meet the setback requirements for both districts, so there aren't any nonconformities on the site that are created by the subdivision.
Who will watch that development?
They would have to, would have to go through our process, our site development process, for them to, in our building, they'd have to get a building permit to develop further, so we would see it then.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just chime in real quick, it's like, well, why, you're doing other zoning fixes, why not address this at this time? I think one of the reasons is, I think this property is a candidate for complete redevelopment, and without knowing specifically what intended, I would hate to zone the property either C2 or I1, and then have a redevelopment come along that doesn't quite fit that. So we think if probably the best time to address the zoning discrepancy, again, not illegal, just not desirable, would be at the time of any redevelopment.
Thank you, Matt. Any additional questions? Seeing none and seeing nobody in the audience, roll call, please. Thank you, Brandon.
Connell?
Yes.
Hepner?
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lammers,
Yes.
Manus,
Yes.
Med,
Yes.
Tallman, yes, and Schneider.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that concludes the subdivision agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Schneider. We have 1, 2, 3 new future business items that will be coming before us, including one that a lot of the commissioners haven't seen, the 79-acre, 47-lot preliminary plat outside the city limits. We'll talk more about that later. Any additional thoughts, questions, communications?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor of adjournment, signify by aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Please drive home safely. Thank you for your attendance.